Predictable, that's another good word.
Okay, so as we know, as an EMT, you must be taking like a lot of training classes, right? So, like, what do those classes consist of?
Oh, so much. So much. EMS has changed so greatly since we joined in 1978. It has just changed immensely. I am doing things that I never thought the state of Wisconsin would ever allow me to do as a volunteer. When I joined, you had to take a refresher course every 2 years and a basic course of 80 hours. Our classes are not based by semester, they're based by hour. And it was an 80-hour EMT course, and they taught you everything. Okay, supposedly they taught you everything. And then you refreshed every 2 years. Now I have back the refresher, which is, I think, 48 hours every 2 years. I have a CPR card I have to refresh every year. I have my EMTI intermediate that I am, that I have to refresh every 2 years. I have basic skills I have to refresh every 6 months. And I have a driving course I have to take every 3 years. So even trying to remember when did you last take them and when do you have to do it again is difficult.
Right.
And then to fit them all in is a little unusual.
But it's all worth it, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I wouldn't be still doing it after 30 years if I didn't think it was. And also we're lucky now that in 2000 Diane Ebert took over as director. So a lot of this scheduling stuff she does for us. It makes it easier for us as an individual EMT.
Right. So, like, you mentioned, like, the government was allowing you to do a lot of things that you would never expect to do. So, like, what were some of those things?
Yes. IVs.
Oh.
I can put an IV in now. I can give epinephrine. And when I first joined the service, can't remember what it is they wouldn't let us do because it was an invasion of the body, and they were not going to allow any volunteer EMT to invade the body, and I can't remember exactly what that was. Maybe giving aspirin, I can't remember. But now we are fully equipped with IVs. I can give medications. I can give Narcan, which will reverse the reaction of a drug overdose. I can do all these things, and it never would have dawned on me that anyone would have given me permission to be able to do these medical procedures in the field.
Right. Okay. Well, with the higher snowfall this past winter and more dangerous driving conditions, how did that affect the number of calls you'd have to take in the job?
Actually, the weather did not affect us in the number of calls because normally in a snowfall you have a lot of accidents, but they're vehicle damaging accidents. You're going at a slower speed. There's not that many injury accidents that come up. There were a few, but we weren't impacted by the weather that way. But we were impacted by the weather by being able to get to scenes. And I can remember years ago, we had a call in ice, which is one of my favorite things, ice. And we had to go up on Slack Hill because a gentleman broke his leg. And when we got up there, we got up there fine, but when we left his house, the ambulance wouldn't go. It just stayed there. If anything, it rolled backwards. And of course my driver says, Linda, don't look out the back window. Well, what do you have to do when somebody tells you not to look out the back window?
Look out the back window.
You gotta look out the back window. And all there was this little decorative fence and tree tops.
Wow.
And every time you took the foot off the brake, it rolled closer to that fence. Luckily, thanks to volunteers in the neighborhood, people who saw us up there, a gentleman brought in a tractor and a chain and pulled us out. We broke his chain, and then we kind of had to do a little praying when you go down Slack Hill that just stopped the stop sign. But it took us an hour and a half to get off the top of that hill. And that's the kind of stuff you get in bad weather. You may need a plow to plow you to the hospital. And last year this last winter, there was a lot of situations
Right.
where, and we have chains on our ambulances now, so we can get through the snow drifts a little bit better, but it's hard.
Yeah. Well, with the exception of bad weather, on average, how long does it take to respond to a call?
Well, it depends upon where it is.
Mhm.
We are trying to get the ambulance out the door within 3 to 5 minutes of the pager going off.
Mhm.
Then you have wherever the call is. Now, if it's in town, it's only a minute or two longer.
Mhm.
If it's out in Harmony Grove, it can be 8 to 10.
Mhm.
If it's in Oak Key, it could be 8 to 10. And it depends upon, do we get good directions?
Right. Mm.
So it's important to know, if you call for an ambulance, where you really are. Because Highway V is everywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, it's everywhere. Highway V is in Harmony Grove. Highway V is near Oak Key. Highway V is out almost by the marina. Wherever you go, there's a Highway V and there's a Highway J. You got to get more landmarks so that we get the right direction first.
Right. Mhm. Okay, so how many members do you have on your staff, and how many are on call at a given time?
Right. On our staff right now, we have an awesome crew, an absolutely awesome crew. We have, I think it's 38 people right now. And that is phenomenal. I remember in the 90s there only being 10 of us. So to have, in this age, with all of this training, to have that many dedicated people is unbelievable. We take normally with us 3 people.
Mhm.
But if we have a new member, they ride along as what they call a fourth, where they just observe.
Mhm.
Also, if we know it's going to be a bad call, such as a CPR situation, we will take usually Diane, who's in-house, along with us, so that we may have 4 people, 4 trained people on, depending upon what we hear from dispatch.
Right.
So again, that's the important issue, is what does dispatch know?
Mhm. Is that usually enough for like a call?
It's sometimes interesting.
Mhm.
Because people, I think they don't mean to, but people like to downplay the emergency. And they'll say, it isn't, all we need is the ambulance. We don't want you to go red light. It's not that urgent. Just get here.
Right.
Dad's sick. Well, Dad's more than sick.
Yeah, and you get there, it's like, oh,
And it
he
would go,
might be dead.
you know. So our protocol is, and you should let your viewers know, our protocol is to always go to the call as if it's a 1033. 1033 means the emergency. As if it's an emergency, regardless of what dispatch says. And dispatch has gotten to the point where they say, just follow your protocol. The family is saying they don't want the red lights and sirens. They don't want the neighbors to be worried. They don't want all the attention brought just because Dad's sick. Some people don't appreciate that, but that is our policy because of what has happened in the past with what we have found at scenes. We don't trust that. Now, if somebody's trained, if one of our first responders, who we have 3 of them out in Harmony Grove and we have 2 in Oak Key, if they get to the scene first and they say, he is just sick and he just can't, handle a ride in a car, then we will downgrade because it's much safer. We do not like going with the red lights and sirens on.
Okay. So, like, what type of equipment do you use, and how has technology affected that over the years?
Oh, technology. Well, that's the reason I can put IVs in. That's the reason I can do all these things now. We are so lucky in Lodi, and I have to say this and repeat it over and over again. The people in Lodi support us so well with our fundraising efforts that we have equipment that other services drool over. Because the state requires certain perimeters, but Lodi can go above and beyond those perimeters. In technology, we have what they call CPAP machines. They are not required, but for those people who are having extreme breathing problems, they can help them so much. And we are trained, and we have them on board our ambulances. We are now purchasing new Zols. I'm not quite sure where this is going because we had just been accepted into Dr. Bean's CCR program. And so we have ordered new